This is News Conference Extra with Conan Nolan.
Good morning and welcome to News Conference Extra, a special segment of Today in LA Weekend. Joining us from Washington, Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press, which airs every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. So, Chuck, humor me for a second. The impeachment trial starts on Tuesday. Based on what we saw in the impeachment hearings, we'll probably hear the same arguments from some of the same people, led by Adam Schiff, Democrat of Burbank. We may hear different arguments in terms of the defense for the president. We'll be hearing from some new people, Alan Dershowitz, Kenneth Starr, and there'll be this parallel track of possible new information and new evidence that will be taking place outside the Capitol that we're not sure will end up in that trial. Do I have that right?
Yes, you do. It's as good of a rundown as any. You should write our lead for Sunday.
Well, the question that I have, though, is that you have 4 Republican senators who are vulnerable, potentially vulnerable in the 2020 election. And so all eyes will be on them as to whether or not they flip and we have, instead of a trial that lasts a couple of weeks, we could have a trial that lasts upwards of 2 months.
It is. Look, the people I've talked to in the Senate side of things tell me this, which is this. There are 3 votes for witnesses on the Republican side right now. You sort of see it. I think there's 2 hard votes for witnesses, Murkowski of Alaska, Mitt Romney of Utah, and Susan Collins. I think she's there generally on witnesses. On the specific ones, she seems to have allowed herself some hedging. But the question we've all had is, who's the 4th? Who's the 4th? And what I was told is there is no 4th. There are 20, meaning if there is a 4th and there is demand from witnesses, then you'll see half the conference, or maybe even everybody coalesce and say yes to witnesses, because they don't want to leave someone on an island and they don't want to create a party dispute. Remember Mitch McConnell's ultimate goal here. His ultimate goal is to protect the Senate majority, whatever way he thinks that is possible. If it means hugging the president, he would hug the president. If it means figuring out how to both satisfy the president, but give some room for the moderates to do what they need to do, he'll do that too, which is what he's trying to do. I don't know if that middle ground exists, but if it does, Mitch McConnell's trying to find it.
Sidebar story, of course, is you have 3 presidential candidates who are on the jury, who are off the campaign trail, and everybody's wondering how that impacts Iowa.
Look, I'm sorry, of all the places to not be able to campaign in the last 2 weeks, I would argue a caucus state is a lot harder to be yanked off from the trail than a primary state. Caucuses are about appealing to people on such a personal level, getting them to show up at a specific time to defend and support you. A primary, you're just trying to get people to go to the polls and pull a lever. And so, look, this does not help Sanders, Warren, Klobuchar, and by the way, there is a 4th senator still running, Michael Bennet. The question is, does it hurt Sanders enough that would cost him a chance at winning Iowa? We're about to find out.
And I have to tell you, this whole thing about having the president's team argue in the impeachment trial reminds me of the potential of a Mike Andrews situation. If you bear with me for a second. 1973 World Series, Oakland A's second baseman, Charlie Finley, hates his play. Pulls him out of the series, has him coerces him into feigning an injury, and it ends up the commissioner of baseball forces him back on the team. But I could just see the president hypersensitive as to how the defense is operated in this trial, starting to critique whether or not his side is passionate enough. I mean, there's always this potential that some of these defenders of the president will have an audience of one. That's the chief executive.
I will say this. The wild cards of this trial, one, we already are seeing it play out in real time. Lev Parnas, or new information, new people dumping, document dumps. That's wild card 1. Wild card 2 is what you just identified. The president is going to be a viewer of this trial. He probably will be the lead commentator on this trial. Does he do that? I mean, I assume he's been told not to. Don't do it. Don't commentate. Don't do these things. But that, to me, is one of the wild cards here. His immediate reactions in the middle of the trial having an impact. I mean, look, I think he did real damage to himself when he when he got involved during the ambassador's Ivanovich's testimony in the House. So maybe he sees that as a lesson learned. History suggests that's not the case.
Impeachment, of course, the topic on Meet the Press. Who do you have on the program?
Well, we're going to be doing the impeachment manager front and the president's defenders, but also we've got a focus group that I'm very interested in sharing with folks. Democratic primary voters, Democrats in Milwaukee County. I could argue it might be the single most important county to Democrats in 2020 if they want to win the presidency, because as Milwaukee County turnout and enthusiasm for Democrats goes, so goes that state of Wisconsin, which may mean so goes the presidency.
Meet the Press, Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. Always interesting. It's a wild week coming up. Chuck Todd, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Conan.
NBC4's news conference at 9 o'clock. We will talk with the former House manager in the impeachment of President Bill Clinton. That is Jim Rogan. He's the one who was defeated by Adam Schiff in the Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena district, which he represented. Plus, we'll talk with former Congressman David Dreyer. He's now president of the board of directors for the Tribune Company and a big advocate of the China trade deal. And we'll take a look at Governor Gavin Newsom's budget. It got lost in the news of the week, but some of his priorities, and is the state of California saving up for a potential recession? That's News Conference at 9 following Meet the Press. We'll see you then.